Hey everyone. So this week Kevin and I had an interesting conversation, and we thought it would be worth talking to you live about it. So the context for it is series 2 or season 2 is about us now having worked through things in our lives that were hard, and we're now at a point where we're creating the next phase of our lives, and that's just so happens to coincide with season 2 of the podcast. And where we've got to is that things have shifted. The external world and the things in our life are in a good place. And I know, for me at least, that the next phase of that is about to begin, where I'm taking the next leap in terms of the things I want to create in my life. That may involve things like living by myself and some big stuff, relationships, all that jazz. And the conversation we were having was really about the idea of, do you leave it up to the universe? Do you trust and have faith that once you're clear on what you want, that it'll come? Or do you need to be the master of your own destiny? And do you need to force it, take action to make it happen? Any comments as a general intro to this?
Yeah, just in while we were talking, I was seeing a linear line, a scale of universe on one side and force, whatever we want to call it, on the other side, and we trying to get to that middle ground where, yes, we have to take certain responsibilities for ourselves and our development, and trust that the universe will also provide. So that's the two ends, and then the middle. And in our conversations, what's come up is that Andrew and I have come or coming towards the middle from different ends. You're coming from the spiritual, the universe side. I'm learning more about that, but I've got to make this happen, and so that's what's come up for me firstly.
And I think, to step back from this is about lessons from the heart. So I will talk about myself, and the framing I'll give to this is that there were 2 steps for me before this. When things changed for me, there were 2 things I did. I set intentions for the life I want to create, including one of those intentions, for example, was creating a whole new circle of friends, which have sort of come into my life. So you've got to set intentions around the way you want your life to be, and then you've got to internalize and create the identity that life is asking you to create. So you've got to believe it's possible for you, and you've got to become you've got to become now what that life is asking you to become, and believe it's possible for you. And that identity piece is really important. But once you've done that, it then leaves you in a place where Kevin is exactly talking about, which is, so on the spectrum of having faith that the vision you've got will materialize over time, or needing to make it happen, there is 2 potential options. And I had an awareness, for me, we're probably coming on those 2 sides, that having come out of a long period of change, I was very much allowing the external world to direct my path and to show me where life was going to go. And now I'm somewhat clear, I think. Sound a bit doubtful, but I'm pretty clear on what my future is. And I'm getting these feelings of, actually, you're going to probably have to take action here. You're going to have to take some big step to move yourself from where you are to the new life you want to create. And but interestingly, even for me, that sort of comes to me intuitively. It doesn't really come to me as a rational sort of thing. It just comes to me as I'm probably reaching that point.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I've got a clarifying question. When do you start this new circle of friends?
It's already
Oh,
started.
good. Oh, that's good. Okay, all right. We'll clear that one up.
And you are one of them,
Oh,
so don't
sure,
worry.
made it. Secondly, is coming from the making it happen, which is what I've done in the last 2.5 years initially. And that was before a lot of our conversations together as well, talking about spirituality and so on. But I got signs from the universe that I needed to stop doing some of the things that I was doing because I was just devouring YouTube videos. I was devouring podcasts and taking everything on. And I had a skiing accident, which I took as a sign to slow that down. We had last year, we went away. I got COVID. So it's like, okay. And in our discussions and our conversations, I'm getting that realization that this middle ground is really where we want to be. Yes, we've got to be intentional about the things that we want to do, but at the same time, trust that things will come to us in the right time. And that's not easy to do because it's sometimes, well, I know for me, I'm impatient, full stop, and I've had to let a lot of that go. So that's what's been turning up for me.
I think the middle way is an interesting idea, and from in most areas of life, the middle way is a good choice, because if you're on either one of the polarities, you see it in politics. If you're either Mac or Microsoft, like there's all these like divisive choices we have where you can side one or the other, right?
Yeah.
Why can't you use an Apple Mac for certain things and Microsoft for others? Why can't you enjoy both? Why do we have to be one thing or the other? And it's almost like the world forces us to choose. But when it comes to this, you didn't never have to make that choice. You can be all things. And when it comes to this particular decision, you can allow the universe to show you, and then you'll get to certain points where it's clearly saying, and now it's up to you to take the next step, right? You can feel what the next step is, and you got to have the courage to now take it.
Yeah, and that's where the trust comes in. You got to trust that this sign that you've been given in whatever form is something that firstly fits into your intentions, and it generally does, because that's we put the intentions out, and it attracts it too.
Yeah.
And then you want to be able to, excuse me, you want to be able to do something with that, and that's where, like you say, there's courage. There's a whole range of things that you can use. Love for yourself. So preparing yourself to be able to take advantage or take advantage of these things that are turning up. And so I've been, just while you're talking here, I'm just reflecting over the last 2.5 years for me. I started this a while back, and that was because I intentionally chose something to study that gave me some sense, it gave me some idea of how to go about looking internally. And so I've been on this path for some time now, and it's interesting.
So if we explore that as an example, you've invested in understanding your own being and the being profile to use with other people and all that sort of stuff. Was that you're obviously there was something that happened where that was meant to be, like it just sort of landed in your lap and it felt right within you, right?
Yeah.
But did you ever get to a point where you also knew you needed to take action on it as well?
Absolutely.
Like, where you got to a certain point where you're like, now bits of it are up to me?
Well, I think it was in combination almost from the beginning. I had that feeling that this was the right thing to do. And I was challenged on this. There was a financial commitment to it. And I was challenged by different people on this. And I just kept coming back. I don't have a reason for it. I just felt like it was the right thing to do. And I went with my intuition. And, looking back over this year, I've got through the financial side of it, and, and I'm still working through it, which is great. But right back in the beginning, when I had my being profile debrief, and this was really early on, after Mandy passed away, I made the decision then that I wanted to become accredited. I wanted to become a coach. I wanted to go into the mastery program over this this period of time. And I realized, and I knew, and this goes back to our intentions and the consequences. I knew that there was a lot of work to be done with it, and sometimes I've struggled with that work. So it doesn't, you can put the intentions out there. You've got to do the hard work.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's got too hard, and then other times, and it's getting. And as you was talking about, we working in stage 2 of where we at individually. It's becoming easier in a way, but easier because I'm holding myself more accountable and more responsible for what I'm doing. I'm working harder at getting better sleep. I'm making sure that I look after myself, all of those sorts of things. And I'm, intentionally going out looking for this type of work as well. And then we were talking about this before, getting feedback from people is really powerful. And being back, and I've been working with people for the last 2 years anyway, but just lately with the Being Profile, the things that people are talking about are resonating as well. And that's been the real power for me. But it's been along the way, mostly about, yes, okay, I trust this intuition, and I'm going to run with it. And I have to do something as well to work on myself.
I don't think we really need to say much more. I think that's really the lesson from the heart, is that there is a polarity of faith and force, and that somewhere in the middle lies this way of being and way of living the life where you listen to your own intuition to allow it to help you for you to understand what you're resonating with. And you use that resonance, that excitement, that pull that you get from things to make decisions about the things that you do and don't do. But then once you're in that place, you've then got to take the action towards them. You've got to have the courage to trust it. You've got to make the decision to move towards it.
Yeah.
And that's the human part of that process.
Yeah. And in doing that gives you a freedom. It doesn't take away the heartache or any of that sort of stuff, but it gives you the freedom to make those choices. And that's what I've really, in recent, probably more so in the last 4 months, 6 months, I've been feeling that a lot more. It's like, wow, I'm making these choices because I do have the freedom, and I'm seeing benefits from it. I'm feeling better about my life. Yes, there's been a major trauma. Yes, there's still a lot of work to be done. But I dare say I'm happy in a way. It sounds silly to be saying that.
It doesn't sound silly.
Well, I guess when I say that, it's like to the outside world. You've had this massive trauma in your life, and you're still working through that with you and myself and the family. And I'm starting to enjoy life again, and that's I guess the big focus of season 2 is to find those enjoyable times and work through and embrace them, as well as still be present with whatever's going on.
Exactly. And I think as a general theme, it's that inner process you're going through that creates the happiness. It's the inner contentment, externally you can still be affected by things and moving through things and have challenges. But if internally you've found some sense of peace with who you are and what you are, you can move through anything.
Absolutely.
So I hope that's been useful. Encourage you to think about this for yourself and apply it to your own life. And we'll talk to you next time.
See you next time.